Hi, you're listening to After Dinner Conversations, short stories for long discussions. What that means is we get short stories, we select those short stories, and then we discuss them specifically about the ethics and the morality of the choices the characters and the situations put us in. Why did you do this? What makes you do this? What makes us good people? What's the nature of truth, goodness, all of that sort of stuff. And hopefully we're all better, smarter people for it and learn a little bit about why we think the way we think. So thank you for listening.
Okay, welcome back once again into the third episode of Season 5 of After Dinner Conversation. I am your co-host Kolby here with Jeremy.
Hi.
Hi. We're actually drinking little fancy coffees if you're watching the video of us. We are doing our podcast in person. We're not having to do them remote for a little while, which is super exciting. And we're rotating. That was the new change for Season 5. So we're always going to have a different 2 to 3 people. We're going to rotate between the 4 of us. And I think the next one will either be Ashley and I, or it'll be just you and Sarah again, or I don't know. We'll figure it out. Or maybe 3 of us. At any rate, you can listen to this. You can read this story we're going to discuss on our magazine. I think it was, September issue maybe?
Yeah, this is September.
September of 2021. Comes out every month. You can get the subscription for $4.95 for the first year, or you can buy individual issues on Amazon for $2.99, including this one, as well as everywhere, you can buy stuff like this. Nook, Apple, whatever, Kindle. Okay, so our story today is Conscience Cleaners by Alexander B. Joy. And it's like a closing argument, I think. Like it's a lawyer's closing argument in a court proceeding. And if I understand it correctly, what it is the lawyer is basically saying, like, look, this guy was arrested, tried, found guilty for some horrible crime. We never know what the crime is, but we assume it's pretty terrible. He goes to jail. He does his time. He does his years in jail. He gets out, and he gets out because he was a good prisoner, but also because he had genuine remorse. If I'm screwing anything up, let me know, Jeremy. And now the thing that we're in court back for is because he has essentially, I don't know if it's a PTSD or he's just got trauma,
Right.
Because of his remorse. He genuinely feels ongoing remorse for what he did. And his trauma isn't related to being in prison. It's not like he's traumatized by being like raped in prison a bunch of times. Maybe he is, but that's not the reason. He's traumatized daily and has panic attacks because of the knowledge of what he did that put him in prison.
Yes.
Because he's genuinely remorseful. And at least for the purposes of this story, we have to accept that to be true, I think. Even though in real world, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And there are these like tiny cameras. They're spying on him under the Spying Ex-Prisoner Act or whatever. And they show him to the court getting panic attacks and feeling like he's having a heart attack and all these things. And so now the lawyer is back in court on his behalf, asking for him to get, eternal sunshine, basically, and
exactly.
have his memories of him committing the crime removed from his memory. And the reason they're in court for it is because it's a military technology used ideally for soldiers, but with special court permission, it can be used on civilians. But you get the impression that it's never been used on civilians for this reason. And so this would be sort of a new legal precedent. Did I miss anything?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
There are, additional details in the story that support the argument. But basically, it's a technology that allows them to remove the memories.
Right. I don't know if I ever got. Was it going to remove the memory of the prison time, or
no,
only of the crime? So he would know he went to prison, but he would and he might even remember why, but he wouldn't remember committing the crime.
Right.
Okay.
And that's exactly. And it took a couple of readings to really kind of figure out.
Yeah.
This is exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And at first, I definitely felt like, no, this isn't right, because you would if you remove all of this knowledge, then he's basically the same person he was. So
because it's the knowledge of the guilt of knowing the crimes what keeps you from committing the crime again. I didn't even think about that.
But I think on reread, it's there are some specific lines in there that talk about he understands he is consciously I don't remember the specific wording, but a completely different person in a moral sense, and so no longer capable of committing the same crime. And so they're just going to target these specific memories.
Because his foundational sort of character is different.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
And so
I got to be honest, I struggled with this one.
Yeah.
Even as I was reading it, I would be like, yeah, do it. No, don't do it. I went back and forth mid-read as I was thinking about it. And I don't know, did you have the same experience or not?
Yeah, definitely. And it took a couple of reads to really, I think, come to the conclusion that the way it's described, it's just targeting specific memories, and they can pretty definitively prove that he is, morally and conscientiously a different person who's no longer capable of committing these crimes and has already been punished and reformed and served his time.
So one of the things I like about the stories that we get, and I liked it in this one too, is unlike in real life, when you're writing fiction, you can simply create like the equivalent of a flux capacitor.
Yes.
Where you can just say, for the sake of this story, accept as true the following. When, of course, in real life, you never could really do that, right? You never know, like, is he really faking it? Is he not faking it? Would he really revert? Would he not revert? But when you're working in this sort of closed box, you can just say, like, we have a flux capacitor. It makes time travel possible. And you're just like, yeah, okay, that works. Like, that's the story.
Okay.
I have to I have to believe your fiction.
Suspend my disbelief on this topic.
Right. I have to just believe your fiction because that makes the story possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things I liked about, or one thing I like about science fiction and about fantasy and all these other genres, but that I liked about this story is in real life, this would be a much more complicated issue. But because we're reading it in a fictional setting, you can simply accept it as true and now get to the sort of ethical, philosophical nature of punishment questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was your, I don't want to jump to the end here, but did you have a final opinion on this?
No, my final opinion on it is, yes, he should be allowed to.
And the reason being that a person shouldn't need to remember the things they've done wrong?
Oh, not even. I think it was less about that, but more that the removing of those memories won't negatively affect him, won't revert him back to the way he was.
Fair. Okay. But I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this. Okay.
Yeah.
Jump in. Feel free.
So that the removing of the memories won't. It was really a question of would he commit those crimes again, and if you can answer that question, then yes, he should be able to have those memories removed to remove his trauma.
But let me ask this: is part of this is why I don't have an answer to this. I'm just like going because I went back and forth a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Isn't part of your punishment the memory of the act committed? Or is your punishment over the day you step out of prison?
That's a good question.
This is what I struggled with. I struggled with this, because I feel like, and I don't have an answer. I just have questions. I wonder if part of the sort of burden of being alive is remembering all the things you wish you could do different, but can't.
Yes. But specifically from a punishment point of view, he has already served his sentence. And
okay, so maybe there are two answers. Maybe there's, from a criminality court system standpoint, the answer is yes. But from a humanity standpoint, the answer is no.
Yes, I would agree with that. That there could be questions around, from a humanity standpoint, whether or not he should still remember those. But I think there are other questions. If he is traumatized...
Like he's unable to function?
He's unable to function at this point.
Yeah.
Then we're looking at, from a societal standpoint, what...
Then it's a humanitarian act.
Yes. And it's more worthwhile.
Yeah.
Again, go back to.
Damn, I hate that you. No, like it's interesting. Like this is one of the cool things about these podcasts is I've genuinely thought about this story and this question a bunch of times as I read it, and I have no clear answers, and I've made more progress in my thinking in
in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, in like 6 minutes of talking than I did in like 2 weeks of thinking about this. I don't know. I guess that's the whole point of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Please continue. I'm just like my mind is like going really quick.
No, I guess to finish that thought, the value, his value to society, is worth more if we can solve his trauma.
Hi, this is Kolby, and you are listening to After Dinner Conversation, short stories for long discussions. But you already knew that, didn't you? If you'd like to support what we do at After Dinner Conversation, head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/After Dinner Conversation. That's right, for as little as $5 a month, you can support thoughtful conversations like the one you're listening to. And as an add incentive for being a Patreon supporter, you'll get early access to new short stories and ad-free podcasts, meaning you'll never have to listen to this blurb again. At higher levels of support, you'll be able to vote on which short stories become podcast discussions, and you'll even be able to submit questions for us to discuss during these podcasts. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being the kind of person that supports thoughtful discussion.
All right, so we took a little break. We're back, and we were talking about... Oh, man, this is going to be tough now to remember.
Talking about the good to society versus the good to the justice system.
And whether or not there's two different questions here, right? There's the question of, does justice require him to remember it? And your answer is no.
My answer is no.
But does society require him to remember it? And your answer is...
We could talk more about that. Why would society, what would benefit society for him to remember his crimes if he has been reformed to the point where he will no longer commit that crime?
Yeah, I hear your point. Here's why I struggle with it, though, and this maybe isn't in the story so much as just me on my own thing, is I feel like we've had other memory erasing stories before.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always come back to whenever we have, not like this, but, other ones, like I feel like we are the summation of our histories. And when you start trying to pull out parts that are too traumatic or too bad or too whatever, like it becomes a very tough, slippery slope.
Yes.
Where do you stop pulling stuff out?
Where do you stop erasing memories if you can erase everything?
Yeah.
And that was my original concern too, is once you start erasing your history, you remove the things that define who you are now.
Right.
So what would stop him from, if you removed everything from the crime forward, yes, you're suddenly turning this person back to who they were.
And I'm not even as worried about that, because the story kind of makes it clear
that you're just removing
that he's now safe. But, I mean, so maybe it's a simpler question. And I feel like maybe it's the same question with medication. Like, when do you medicate? And I know there are lots of answers to this, but my answer is, for me, when you're no longer able to sort of function as a person, function within a societal framework, right? So it's like, do you have an eating disorder? Yeah. Is it an eating disorder that keeps you from functioning within the society's framework? Okay, then maybe we need to talk about more than therapy, right? Maybe we need to talk about medication. Maybe we need to talk about whatever, erasing your memory or whatever. And I mean, I know that's a little bit beyond the scope of the story, but
beyond the scope, but definitely an important question. And I don't know. Yes, I agree. There's a slippery slope because you could remove enough memories to turn this person into something else.
But I would argue when you remove one memory, you've turned that person into someone else. I mean, now I'm not saying that you've made a severe shift. Maybe you're not going to make him a criminal. But can you think of a truly traumatic event in your life that isn't an integral part of who you are today and doesn't affect your decision-making process?
But again, when it comes to a point back to your eating disorder, if this particular memory makes you not
get out of bed in the
functioning
morning,
part of society, is that the time to then medicate?
Maybe.
So there's, it definitely there's a balance there between your utility and your.
All right, so let me switch gears for a second. Let's say that you're the parent, grandparent, brother of the person who was the victim of this. Isn't there a part of you that's just like, suffer for freaking ever suffer?
Yes, there certainly is.
Like, and I like, it's really easy to talk about it from like a third party perspective, but I think there is an argument to be made that the punishment for what you've done should never end.
Then why don't we just lock people up forever?
Yeah. No, I know. But it doesn't make me feel better.
Right.
It doesn't make me like I'm amazed. And I'm not trying to give anyone ideas. I'm amazed there aren't more people, more like angry fathers standing out in front of the courthouse with like a hidden shotgun after a court proceeding. Like
anytime something's like that.
It would seem to me like in 99% of the times where someone's daughter is assaulted or something like that, and the person is found not guilty, that the dad is not waiting in front of the courthouse. That should happen almost every time. Like, and it totally stumps me that it doesn't. And I would feel that way in this case if this guy was like, look,
right.
Here's what I would do. I would get a DVD of him having these panic attacks, and I just sit at home on a Friday night and watch it with like popcorn.
Right.
Show it to my friends and be like,
he's still suffering because of what
every day, man, every day. And if he ever starts to get better, I'm gonna swing by with like a copy of this DVD to maybe trigger him. Because I'm just that kind of a bastard. But I mean, I know that's not the way society is supposed to work, but I don't know. There's part of me that just
right.
There's part of me that is not as forgiving as I wish I were.
So where do you come down on this? Would you allow this to happen? Or you still have to? You still don't know.
Okay, I reserve the right to change my mind 10 more times. The intellectual side of me says that the court punishment isn't you shall go to jail for 25 years and you shall be tortured by this the rest of your life. That wasn't the jury's decision, right?
Right.
And so in that sense, you should be able to forget it. And I agree with you. Like, it doesn't do society any good to have a non-functioning individual.
Right.
However, I feel like I don't like the idea of taking out these critical moments in our lives, even if they serve no useful purpose. And I know that's not really what the point of the story is. I mean, the story is clearly...
But it's one of the questions.
But I feel like the story is really trying to get at, like, what is the nature of punishment? How should a person be punished? Like, is the very process of repentance, is repentance part of being punished for what you do and the knowledge of it? And can you only have true repentance with the pain and the knowledge of what you've done? Like, when you no longer are traumatized by what you've done, are you no longer repentant for what you've done? Right. I think the answer to that is no, because I feel like you can regret something or be repentant for something that you've done with it being like digested knowledge as opposed to trauma. Like, you can be aware that, like, I was in war and I shot somebody, like,
but
and
I don't remember these actions.
Right, and I really feel bad about it, and I wish I didn't do it because it was a civilian or whatever. Yeah. But I have to judge myself through the lens of who I was in that moment, and now I'm not that person, and so I forgive myself for who I was.
Yeah.
But if that person can never forgive themselves for who they were because what they did was so horrible, This is why I struggle with this story. Like,
Yeah.
I'm literally tying my own mind up in a knot, even just saying it all out loud, which I guess is a sign of a good story. So how sure are you of your answer? Maybe this will make me feel better. Are you like 100% on your answer?
Definitely
are you
not
like,
100%.
Are you like 70% on your answer?
No, because it brings up other questions. So, what does it mean now? What does it mean now that, okay, the memories have been removed. He remembers his trauma. He remembers being punished. Now he doesn't know why. So how does that change him as a person?
Right. Like maybe you just know like I did something terrible and it was so terrible that I chose to have it removed and I just need to believe that it was terrible and not pull that thread and find out what I did. Or maybe just read about it in like an excerpt, but not actually remember it.
Okay, that might make it okay if you read the details.
Like
you know what you did, but you don't remember.
Like here's a summary of what you did, just so you know.
Yeah, this is why you were punished.
But you don't need to remember it.
Oof, that might be just as bad.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know, man. Here's the other one I wondered is, as I read it. So, I assume the way this story came about was the person hired the lawyer to make the request.
Yes.
And so the person knows what he wants. He wants to
not remember,
right?
Yeah.
And so he's made the choice that remembering is not integral to his penance.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I hadn't even thought of that. Yes. He's made the request because he doesn't
believe that this is required anymore for him to be a penitent. For some reason, every time I hear the word penitent, this is totally off topic, I always think of the Indiana Jones, the third Indiana Jones, where he's walking at the end and he's like the penitent man kneels before God and then the big razor blade comes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why it's like certain words that like just trigger
that memory.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like who are you going to call? Like you can never say that again without being like, yeah, Ghostbusters. I'm going to call Ghostbusters. So I don't mean to make light of it. Whenever I think of the word penitent, that's like the only time it's ever been successfully used in a sentence. In like common speech.
Is in Indiana Jones. Great.
Mm-hmm. In Indiana Jones. I don't know. I don't have any answers for this, man. The more I talk about it, the less I have answers.
And I think there are more questions that are unanswered in general with the treatment, what it does to him, and how it will really affect who he is. And you talked about.
And are you 100% sure this won't cause him to revert back?
Yeah.
Like if I'm 99% sure, the answer is no. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, but he's got to know what he did in an abstract sense.
He's like the summary page.
Yeah.
And then you have to read that summary page.
Oof. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think you talked about a Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Whatever that movie was.
Yeah.
And it really,
based on a poem or something, yeah.
Yeah, and it really talked about these things, what is it our memories make us who we are.
Yeah.
So no, I think your point is valid. Without knowing who he's going to become without these memories.
But do you agree that as soon as you take away one traumatic memory, you are not who you were?
Yes.
Okay. And so,
for sure.
And so I'm picking you apart so I can pick myself apart. So if you agree that you can take out this memory and he will be a different person, but an equally safe person, you're okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
In a general concept.
Yeah.
Do
you offer this service to everyone? Like, do you offer it to rape victims? Do you offer it to soldiers? Do you offer it to firemen?
Right. They're already offering it to soldiers.
Firemen who had to crack ribs in order to do CPR or do a tracheotomy, or like. I don't.
No, I think you probably have to balance it again to in a utilitarian sense. How much do these memories affect you in your daily life, in your
like, can you still function?
Yeah. Can you function? And
I gotta be honest, this is the first story we've had, and maybe ever, where
I have
no answer. I don't even have an answer that I'm more likely to. Like, sometimes it's like, well, I'm 30%. I'm 30% this, and you're like, well, how can you be 30% and that can be your best answer? I'm like, because I got 10 other answers. I'm only 3% on. Like,
Yeah.
I'm 3% this and 2% this and 5%. So 30% might be the big winning number.
Yeah.
In this one, I don't even have a 30% answer. Which, I mean,
No, I think that's valid. It's a difficult question.
This is why I originally had Sarah scheduled for this one, by the way.
You didn't want to talk about
I didn't want to do it. Like, I was like, I have nothing to contribute because it's too tidy of a box. The way the story's written.
Right.
It's there's no loose ends where you can be like, well, this part
what about
means
this?
that this is true and this is da-da-da and da-da-da.
Right. So you're saying it's not enough of a story. We need to see the rest of this story, what happens to him, or more evidence of what has happened to other people.
But I mean, that's the beauty of the story, right? Like we talked about at the beginning, is you have to assume that what they're saying is true.
Yeah.
That he could get the surgery, that he would be a different person, but he would be an equally safe person. And he's already committed, he's already done his criminal time, his service for his punishment. And so all you're doing is a humanitarian act for a person who some might argue deserve no humanitarian sympathy.
Yes.
It just ties up in like a perfect bow of like, damn it. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna say no, he doesn't get it. Only because I don't think anyone should get it for any reason.
For any reason.
Soldiers would be it. Soldiers would be the only ones.
Oof. And okay, we could probably talk about that for a while.
Because I feel like if you're a soldier, you have volunteered to knowingly traumatize yourself.
Right.
Maybe like firefighters and police officers too, where it's like I'm doing a job that I know is going to be horrible and I know is going to ruin my life. And so as a willingness to sign up for that job, I am only willing to do it because I know I have this other part of it.
Yeah.
As opposed to being a victim of violence or a car crash or whatever, where it's like, that's just bad luck. Like, I'm not willing to offer this service for bad luck. I'm willing to offer this service for, like, it's a job requirement that you be traumatized by your job.
Okay, so you're not going to offer it for people who are traumatized
by life.
No. Even for things they didn't sign up for.
No, that's correct. Only if you, like, and it doesn't, this is, again, a freaking Star Trek episode, but there was that episode, and I'm sure you've seen it because you've seen all of them too, where there was they genetically modified people on this planet to be perfect killers, to have perfect memories, to do perfect everything, but then they couldn't unprogram them. And so there was a soldier that, it's kind of like Rambo in a sense,
right,
where it's like you're stuck with someone who's engineered to be a certain way and remembers all the things they've done and yet can't get rid of it because you can't undo it. And so I feel like if you have the ability to undo what the government has asked you to become,
there should be some leeway.
There should be some leeway for
that.
That's a deep cut on science fiction to even be there. I mean, that's like way past Ender's Game, right?
Yeah.
But all right. Is there anything else about this that you really wanted to talk about? I feel like I've taken up a lot of this because I've really struggled with this one.
No, I think that's the main point of this. You know, it is really...
This is why I gave it to Sarah. This is why I didn't want to do this one.
You know.
I'm just looking over our questions to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, I did have one that I was curious about that we didn't talk about. What if the trauma that he was struggling from was not related to his crime, but related to the abuse and problems of being incarcerated?
Well, I mean, you've already answered that because you don't, if it's anything that happens to you that you didn't sign up for.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's right. But do you feel that way? Is part of the process of prison remembering having been in prison?
Having been in prison.
Making shiv out of a bar of soap and blah, blah, blah.
I kind of would have to agree with you on that. That, part of the process of prison is remembering the punishment.
Remembering the the horribleness of the punishment.
Yeah. So even with this guy, you could remove the memory to alleviate the trauma, but not the memory of prison, not the memory of his trauma, and he should still have the transcript of here's what you did. So you know why you were punished, but you don't have to remember that traumatic
Just take our
event.
word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever see, and this is a little bit of a tangent. Did you ever see, it was hands down the most frightening movie I ever saw that wasn't frightening. It wasn't a horror movie. It was a movie called The Woodsman.
No, I didn't.
With Kevin Bacon. And he is a recently released pedophile from jail who genuinely is remorseful and genuinely is struggling with it and trying to like get back into society. But of course, it's just a sickness, and he's really struggling with it. And in the process of struggling with it, he inadvertently meets an active pedophile. And
I remember the movie, but I didn't see it.
It was terrifying. It was so, because he's struggling with his own memories.
Right.
So he basically, it's like Dexter, sort of, I think, from what I've heard of the show, where it's like a scary person trying to catch a scary person.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was kind of a tangent.
Okay.
Maybe someday we'll
watch that one.
Yeah, I feel like we should not watch that movie. This is truly, that's a movie that I like. If Sarah was like, let's all watch this movie together, I'd be like, no, you don't get to watch it, Sarah. Like, nobody should get to watch this movie. This is a movie just for people that go to Sundance. All right, so I've looked over my question. I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else?
No.
Okay, then I think we're good. I would just say to our person, I've already forgotten their name. Great job, Alexander
Joy.
Alexander Joy. You have made the tightest bow, the tightest like Gordian knot of a story that we have gotten in a long time. I don't know where to cut it. Yeah. So if you liked the story, if you want to read it and see what we're fussing over, September 2021, you can find it by subscribing to our magazine or by going to Amazon for afterdinnerconversation.com. Get the books, listen to other podcasts. This is what we do every 2 weeks. And next week is, I think it's you and Sarah, or no, I don't even know who it is. We'll have to look. But it'll be another mix of people. It won't just be Jeremy and I rattling on about answers we don't have.
As much fun as that is.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Patreon's all awesome. Blah, 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 blah. Thank you. Thanks for coming, listening, whatever. Bye.
If you've enjoyed listening to this, please like and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. You know, the vast majority of people haven't liked and subscribed, which means maybe it shows up in your algorithm, maybe it doesn't. So don't leave that to chance. Just go ahead and hit that button, and we'd sure appreciate that. And that way we can keep doing what we're doing, and you're not left to the whims of some algorithm. Thanks.